vertical motion or motion due to gravity, which is the same as vertical motion. Okay. So now the subtopic is vertical.
Miss, can you go back for just 1 second?
G.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay. All right, we're talking about vertical motion. Okay. So can you tell me if an object is going upwards in the absence of any kind of resistance? So there's an object that is going upwards. Then what parameters do we know about this movement? There's a particular thing that we know. Do we know the time? Do we know the distance? Do we know the acceleration? Do we know the initial speed while throwing an object up? What do we know if an object is going up? We know the acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration due to gravity is 10 in math, not 9.8 unlike physics. Oops, sorry, 10. 10 meters per second square. When an object is going upwards, it's decelerating. Its speed reduces as it goes up. And eventually it becomes 0 and then it starts to fall down. So in an upward direction, it's deceleration, so minus 10 meters per second square. And in the downward direction, acceleration is plus 10 meters per second square because the speed is increasing when an object is coming down. Okay, so if this is going upwards, we know that its acceleration is negative 10 meters per second square. And we also know that at its maximum height, the final speed will be 0. And when the same object is going downwards, then it is accelerating. Its speed is increasing. So it's going to be 10 plus 10 meters per second square. Also, when an object is moving downwards, then its initial speed is 0. Same as this. Okay, so you need to know these facts that when an object is going upwards, it's decelerating at negative 10 meters per second square. When this object reaches its maximum height while going upwards, its velocity becomes 0 or speed becomes 0. That's why v equals to 0 in the upward direction. Then it begins to fall down, but the initial speed of the downward motion is going to be u as well. The speed is going to be u equals to 0. Same as final speed of the first part of the journey. And then the downward acceleration is 10 meters per second. Okay, now let's take a look at the question. A stone is thrown upward with an initial velocity of 18 meters per second. So there's a stone. The movement is upward, like this. The initial speed is given, 18 meters per second. Find the time when the stone returns to the point of projection. So that means it goes up, reaches all the way to its maximum height, and then it falls down from that point. And you need the accelerate speed at this point. Okay, so when it shot up, its speed was 18 meters per second. Its acceleration is going to be -10 because it's going in upward direction. And at its maximum height, the final speed is going to be 0. And then downwards, this will become the initial speed, and we'll call it u equals to 0. In the downward motion, we know acceleration is plus 10 meters per second squared. Okay. Find the time when the stone returns to the point of projection. So at what time does it reach this point again? So we can find the time of the first part of the journey upwards and then double it. That will give you the time of both the journeys upwards and downwards. Okay. So we have from the first part, we have V0 A minus 10 U18. So we need to use one of the equations of motion, which could be V is equals to U plus AT. Use that. So 0 equals 18 minus 10t. T is 1.8 seconds, but that's the upward time only. The downward time would be the same. So you double this, which gives us 3.6 seconds. Let me check the answer. Yeah, 3.6 seconds. Okay. And the velocity of the stone at this point. Okay. So when it's coming down, what's the final velocity? So we need V. Okay. So for the downward journey, we now also know the time. The time for the downward journey is going to be 1.8 as well, because the upward journey took 1.8 seconds. So the downward journey is also going to take 1.8 seconds under free fall conditions and under no resistance conditions. Okay. So again, we have to find V. So can we do V square equals U square plus 2AS? No, because we don't have the distance. Can we do V is equals to U plus AT? Yes. So V is equals to U plus AT. Which gives us 18 meters per second. Okay. That's all from mechanics today. I'll give you 1 or 2 questions as homework later today. I'm ending this link and sending you a new one, and we'll inshallah discuss the last 2 past paper questions from the paper we were at. Okay, see you. So we're continuing the lesson on motion due to gravity. Yesterday we discussed 1 question from this topic. Today we resume where we left off. Okay. Here's the question. It's pretty blurred. I'll read it out to you guys. Before we dig into this question, let's quickly revise what we talked about with respect to vertical motion yesterday. So this is motion under the effect of the gravity. There's no other resistance acting on the object. So if there's an object which has been thrown upwards, then we know that the acceleration in the upward direction is minus 10 meters per second. And we discussed that at the maximum height, wherever this object reaches its maximum height, the velocity becomes 0. V is 0. Similarly, when the same object starts its downward motion, so now its U is 0. And in the downwards direction, the acceleration is 10 meters per second. Okay. So let's start the second question. Which is, a ball is thrown upward with an initial velocity of 15.5. For how long is the ball higher than 10.5? Okay, so a ball is thrown upward with an initial velocity of 15.5. So we know U, which is 15.5. Okay. So for how long is the ball higher than 10.5 meters? Okay, so here's the ground. The ball is thrown upwards. At some point, at some time, it reaches the height of 10.5 meters. This is 10.5. And then, of course, it goes up and then it begins to come down and then it comes back to this height and then it eventually falls down. So you're being asked that what's the time between this part of the journey? That it crosses 15.5, goes up, then comes down, crosses the 10.5 distance again and goes down. Okay, so for these kind of questions, what you have to do is start the question with an inequality. It's saying that for how long is the ball higher than 10.5? So that means for what point or for what values of t is the distance greater than 10.5? The distance covered by the ball. Actually, it's not really a bend here, so I don't want to confuse you guys. It goes up like this, and then it comes down in the same direction. It does not bend and make a U shape. So that was slightly misleading. Okay. So for what value of t is the distance going to be greater than 10.5? Okay, so we're going to use the equation of motion. S is equals to ut plus half at square greater than 10.5. U is 15.5. T plus half A, the ball is being thrown upwards. So A in the upward direction is negative 10. So negative 10 t square greater than 10.5. So this is 15.5 t minus 5t square greater than 10.5. Rearrange, we get 0 greater than symbol 5t square minus 15.5t plus 10.5. बेटा किसी का ना माइक म्यूट होने वाला है, थोड़ी सी मुझे डिस्टॉर्शन सुनाई दे रही. Okay, so 5t square minus 15.5t plus 10.5t, sorry, just 10.5. I'm going to rewrite it like this: 5t square minus 15.5t plus 10.5 less than 0. Now, this is a question on quadratic inequality. We're going to solve it using the quadratic formula. First, t is equals to minus b plus minus b square minus 4a C over 2A. So let's find the critical values first, ignoring the inequality sign. So that's going to be, apply the quadratic formula. That gives
2.1 and 2.1.
and 1. Take it. Okay. So now since it's an inequality, so to help write the final answer, you may plot the two roots on the x-axis, make a quadratic equation pass through it. Now the inequality is less than 0. So this graph is less than 0 between 1 and 2.1. So the solution to the inequality is t is between 1 and 2.1. So between time 1 seconds and time 2.1 seconds is the distance of the ball greater than 10.5 meters. So for how long was the ball greater than this distance? It's going to be 2.1 minus 1 equals 1.1 seconds. So for 1 second, sorry, 1.1 second, the ball was at a height greater than 10.5. So you might have to use the concept of quadratic inequalities in mechanics too. So, जिसको ये नहीं समझ आया, please ask questions.
एक दफा दोबारा एक्सप्लेन कर लूं तो ज्यादा।
ये देखो क्वेश्चन में कहा है कि एक बॉल ऊपर फेंकी है, ठीक है, ये समझो ये फ्लोर है, इससे बॉल ऊपर फेंकी है, तो वो ऊपर जाना शुरू हुई है। वो कह रहे हैं कि कब, कितनी देर तक इस बॉल की हाइट 10.5 से ग्रेटर है। 10.5 ही था, हाँ 10.5 से ग्रेटर है। लेट्स से यहाँ पे हाइट 10.5 हो जाती है इधर, तो वो बॉल इसको क्रॉस करके ऊपर जाएगी और फिर वापस नीचे आएगी। तो जब ये इसको क्रॉस करेगी ना, तो आपने टाइम काउंट करना शुरू कर देना है। अब वो 10.5 से ऊपर है, ठीक है, ऊपर कहीं उसकी स्पीड 0 होगी और फिर वो वापस आना शुरू हो जाएगी इसी डायरेक्शन, ठीक है, और फिर वो फर्दर नीचे आएगा। तो इस रीजन से लेकर इस रीजन तक का इसका टाइम पूछा कि कितनी देर तक ये बॉल 10.5 से ग्रेटर डिस्टेंस पे रहेगी। तो ये इनइक्वालिटी का क्वेश्चन है, ये हमेशा ऐसे स्टार्ट होता है, एक्स एस इज ग्रेटर देन 10.5। अब क्वेश्चन में u गिवन है और हमें पता है एक्सेलरेशन 10 होती है जब अपवर्ड जा रहा है, शुरू में बॉल अपवर्ड जा रही है, तो फिर आपने एक्सेलरेशन, सॉरी -10 होती है अपवर्ड डायरेक्शन, एक्सेलरेशन ले ली -10, u ले लिया 15.5 क्वेश्चन में गिवन है इनिशियल स्पीड, और फिर इसको सॉल्व करके ये क्वेश्चन बन जाता है क्वाड्रेटिक इनइक्वालिटी का, जो कि प्योर 1 का टॉपिक है। फिर पहले तो इसको सिंपली सॉल्व कर लिया कि जैसे कि ये सिंपल क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन है, और उसके बाद इसके साथ आंसर के साथ ग्रेटर देन या लेस देन लगता है, तो उसके लिए पहले ये जो दो आंसर्स आते हैं इसको हम इधर एक्स एक्सिस पे प्लॉट करते हैं, और फिर इस ग्राफ का वो वाला पार्ट शेड कर लेते हैं जो या तो लेस देन 0 या ग्रेटर देन 0। इस क्वेश्चन में लेस देन 0 था, तो वो इसका मतलब है जहाँ y नेगेटिव है उस जगह की बात हो रही है, तो वो एक्स एक्सिस के नीचे की जगह बात हो रही है। तो फिर दैट मीन्स बिटवीन 1 and 2.1 is the ball at a distance greater than 10.5। और फिर पूछा है कितने सेकंड्स के लिए बॉल 10.5 डिस्टेंस से ऊपर है, तो उसके लिए सबट्रैक्ट कर लिया दोनों टाइम, 2.1 माइनस 1, तो 1.1 सेकेंड्स के लिए ये बॉल 10.5 मीटर्स के ऊपर है। ठीक है। अब ज्यादा अच्छा ये क्वेश्चन तब समझ आएगा जब क्लास के बाद बगैर देखे खुद से करो, फिर बेहतर समझ आती है। आगे चलते हैं।